Ladies and gentlemen, it's your nephew, Willie Moore Jr., and I'm so thankful for this moment in time because, as promised, I've been teasing it the entire show that I get an opportunity to hang out with the President of the United States of America. The one and only Joe Biden is hanging out with us. Come on, crowd, make some noise. Come on, y'all, make some noise. He's here with us today, and we're thankful to have you, man. How have you been?
I've been fine, but I'm a little worried about this election. We got to get out and vote to make sure the progress we made, particularly in the African-American community, is sustained because these guys want to wipe it out.
Yeah, you know what? I'm excited to have you here, man, to talk about that. You know, back in, I want to say 2008, of course, I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, and my son at that time, he's now a sophomore at the University of Mississippi, doing really, really well. But at that time, he was in second grade. He was at this school called City Academy, and he came home from school, and he said, "You know who came to our school?" I said, "Who came to our school?" Joe Biden came to our school, and he told us.
I did go to his school. I forgot all about that.
Yep, you came, and it changed his life forever.
Oh.
You were able to talk about endless possibilities that they had, and now he's on the dean's list at the University of Mississippi, and that's one of the importance of the campaign trail. Yeah, man, you did really good on that campaign trail. I want to talk to you a little bit. You know, initially you committed to making good on promises that are the top priorities for black communities. You know, whether that was student loan debts, nominating the first black woman to the Supreme Court. Now that we're nearly 2 years into your presidency, what have you done that you can really point out? And Joe, I want to tell you, listen, my audience, they love it when we kind of bring it down to the level that everybody can hear. What have you done in the black communities?
And it's no different in the white community either. We just got to call it plainly and straightforwardly. Number one, we made it easier for people who went to college, who acquired a debt going to college, to be able to pay it off. I've forgiven $20,000 in student loans to get people out of the hole so they could start to put their lives together, to start businesses, to be able to do things that really matter. $10,000 debt relief for eligible borrowers, another $10,000 for anybody who received a Pell Grant to get to school. And that's 71% of the African-American undergraduates received a Pell Grant.
Yeah.
So they got a $20,000 reduction in their debt. In addition to that, I kept the promise that we'd put a black woman on the Supreme Court. And we got one of the brightest members of the Supreme Court, Ketanji Brown Jackson. She is incredible. I also said I was going to make the court look more representative. So now we've appointed more African-American women to the appellate courts of the federal court.
That's true.
That is right below the Supreme Court nationally than every other president combined in American history. I told you I was going to help HBCUs also provide for the best education they can possibly do. They just don't have the endowments that other universities have. So they're not in a position to build the laboratories and all these stations that other colleges with big endowments have. And so what happened is I provided for nearly $6 billion to historically black universities so they could serve and secure the largest increase in Pell Grants over the entire decade to get people to those schools. I appointed HBCU board of advisors to help the HBCUs and provide the resource of highest quality education. My friend Tony Allen, president of Delaware State University, is the chair of that. We worked on voting rights. It's the core of this democracy. And I prioritized that issue from day one, calling for the passage of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom Vote Act. I'm doing everything I can in my power to get that done. Yeah. Because, look, but there's so much that we've done. We've also provided for, there's unemployment among African Americans as low as it's been in history. We're also in a situation where we provided for the opportunity for people to start businesses.
Indeed.
And I guess the thing I'm proudest of in the courts is Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Yeah.
She is smarter than most of them, everybody on that court.
Look, probably smarter than everybody in the world at this point. This woman is amazing.
No, she really is.
Yeah.
Not a joke. I said I was going to get the most qualified person I could find. She's as qualified as any person ever appointed to the Supreme Court. That's not a joke.
Yeah, that's real.
That's not a joke. That's deadly earnest and serious.
She definitely is. She definitely is. Right now, I'm speaking to the President of the United States of America, the one and only Joe Biden is here with your nephew. And tomorrow, listen, we got to get out there and vote, of course. We have to do that, and I pray that everybody knows where they're going to vote. But when we come back, Mr. President, listen, I would love to talk to you a little bit about student loan debt relief, because my question is honestly, like, will it actually happen? Because there are so many states right now that are currently in litigation about this particular opportunity, and some states just are not with it. Do you believe that this relief can survive the litigation? We're going to find out when we come back. I'm hanging out more with President Biden on the Willie Moe Jr. Show. Ain't that something? Flat out. Kiara Sheard Kelly, hang on right here on the Willie Moe Jr. Show. Family, listen, it is not a rumor and not a game. The White House is on the line with your nephew, Willie Moore Jr., and it is such a privilege because right now I'm hanging out with the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden. President Biden, I got to ask you this. I just want to kind of go in reverse just a little bit. You discussed a little bit about student loans, $20,000 for those people who had a Pell Grant, $10,000 for those people with just kind of traditional loans, if you would. I want to talk a little bit about it because a lot of people are celebrating it. Of course, I'm promoting it on my show, making sure that people know about it. However, there are certain states that have this litigation going on about it. Do you think this can actually survive the litigation that's actually happening right now?
Absolutely, positively, it will survive. Look, the post-high school education should be the ticket to the middle class. The cost of college is skyrocketed for too many borrowers, even people with a little bit of money. The price of college has tripled in the last 4 years, and Pell Grants used to cover 80% of the college tuition. Now they only cover a third of it. And so here's the point. There's only one case left out there where we have to clear the bar here. You know, it means 16 million Americans could be getting $10,000 to $20,000 in student debt forgiven. Mm-hmm. Republicans, if they take over Congress, they're going to turn their backs on those working families. My agenda is clear. I want to give working and middle-class Americans more breathing room, not make it harder for them to get by. And by the way, the other thing I've done and no one's paid much attention to, I've said anyone who's ever been arrested for the mere possession of marijuana, that gets wiped off their record, and they never have to answer again. Have you ever been arrested? You can say no. Legally, you can say no. And by the way, that's kept a lot of African Americans and Americans across the country from being able to qualify for a whole lot of programs. And one more thing, you know, when someone does their time in prison, they should, when they get out of prison, have every right everybody else has. And so right now we give folks $25 in a bus ticket.
Yeah, that's true.
They end up under the same bridge they got arrested under. Mm-hmm. And so they should be qualified. They qualify for federal housing, qualify for federal loans, qualify for Pell Grants, qualify for all the things that give them a chance to put their lives straight. They paid their price.
President Joe Biden, so glad that you're here with us, man. I kind of want to switch the camera lens to you. What has been the most frustrating thing when you're trying to push these things through? Of course, when we initially seen the student loan, that they were going to get the money, we didn't know exactly how this was going to happen. Of course, now I see a lot of talks in the news that if you've ever had possession of marijuana, it can all be cleared up. Like, how do people get the information to know where to go to make sure that everything is clear? Is that a website? Is that contacting your lawyer? How do you make sure that this stuff is off?
There's a website that allows you for example, there's a website you can sign up for.
Okay.
Getting the student loans. And the website is studentaid.gov.
Yeah.
Student aid, go online to studentaid.gov. Mm-hmm. And one thing I wanted to make sure we did here is we were in a situation where anybody who had a student loan and wants to qualify for forgiveness, that we ran a program to determine whether or not they could be able to quickly determine whether they qualify. And so far, hundreds of thousands have qualified. Because it's so simple. You just call, and it's real quick. There's only 5 questions you get asked.
Good.
You get notified whether you're qualified immediately. Now we just got to get this last court out of the way. You know, but these Republicans, and look, there's a lot of Republicans I know that want to help. But I think a lot of the Republican members of the House and Senate are just afraid of these mega Republicans. I swore I'd never say the name, so I won't. But about 10 months ago, on occasion, there were one bill up. I won't even mention the bill. 6 different Republicans contacted me to say, Joe, I know you're right, but if I support it, I'm going to get defeated. They're going to primary me out. I'll be gone. So I'm convinced that if we're able to get people out to vote in this election and if we're able to maintain the House and the Senate, you're going to see a significant change.
You know, to know that some people want to partner with certain bills and literally will not vote correctly to do the right thing because of their respective party that's just sad, right? So listen, Mr. President, I know that you are a busy man, but listen, when we come back, if you could, I know I'm only supposed to do an hour with you, but if you can, could you stick around? Because I feel like it's just not getting good, Stone. Like, for real. Like, and White House, don't get mad at me. I feel like we're really starting to jail. So I want to know about the assault weapons and how we can get these guns off the street when the NRA is like the silent funders of so many aspects of the political parties. Like, is there a solution? So, Stone, because we are having this great conversation, Flat Out family, I want you to stick around. I know that Sharina Cole's supposed to be coming up, but I want to keep this conversation going. More with President Biden when we come back. It's the Willie Moe Jr. Show, Flat Out. Brent Jones right here on the Willie Moe Jr. Show. Yeah, shout out to him. Still on the line with the President of the United States of America. Shout out to Joe Biden. He's on the line with us now. So President Biden, when it comes to assault weapons and, you know, this gun violence, I'm originally from St. Louis, and one of our schools, VAP, I call it VAP Central School Visual Arts, they had like somebody come in with a gun, begin to shoot, and of course we see this over and over again. What can we do to make sure that there's some different type of gun laws to make sure that these automatic weapons aren't going into the wrong hands? Or I don't even know the significance of even having them. However, I understand the NRA, the different things that happens, but I just want to know, like, what can we do? Is there a vote that we can do? Is there something that we can push to make sure that this gun violence is taken care of?
Yes, we introduced and we lost by a couple votes. We lost the effort to ban assault weapons. Assault weapons travel at 5 times the speed of any bullet coming out of any other weapon, number one. Number two, they're smaller. They can penetrate everything, including Kevlar vests. They are devastating. They can be easily moved into from semi-automatic to automatic. Think of this. Think of the number of cases, and I've been almost to every one of these schools and shooting areas for spent hours there. Here's the deal. You know, you had up to 200 rounds. We should limit the number of rounds you could have in a magazine of a gun. So, at a maximum 10. It should be. I think it should be less. But the idea you could hook up to the weapon 200 rounds. You don't have to reload for 200 shots. It's outrageous. So here's the thing: vote. Did you ever think you'd see a day when if someone's going to show up with a box to drop off their mail ballot, there'd be guys sitting 10, 12 yards away with automatic weapons across their chest and a bulletproof vest?
Never.
Ever think that?
Never.
That's raw intimidation. It's wrong. It's simply wrong.
Yeah, we hadn't seen that stuff since the 60s, man. But here's the thing. As we wrap up, because I know that your time is precious, you know, I often look at people in strong positions like yourself, and I often think to myself, wow, this has to be a tiresome job, but definitely worth it. November the 20th, you actually turned 80 years old. What would 80-year-old Joe tell 50-year-old Joe in this moment?
That I'm still 50. That's the first thing I tell him.
You say you're still 50?
I'm not kidding. That's number one. Number two, I can't even say that number 80.
Wow.
You know, but I'm serious. I no more feel that than I get out of this, off behind this desk and fly. But number one. Number two, look, there's only one reason to be involved in public life, and that's to help people.
Yeah.
I come from a family that's a typical. We lived in a 3-bedroom split-level home with 4 kids and a grandpop living with us. We weren't poor, but we didn't have anything. And by the way, for 36 years in the United States Senate, to the end, I was listed as the poorest man in the Congress. I wasn't poor. I just didn't have any savings. I didn't have any money. I didn't own my house. But I was in a situation where I had a salary, a senator salary, which was a good salary.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, I understand what it's like when the price of gas goes up when I was growing up and we'd sit at the kitchen table and Dad would talk about that. And there's just so much that's available to help people. And by the way, we've done all this by cutting the deficit more than anyone has in American history. Big spending, Joe, give me a break. I cut the deficit by $1.4 trillion this year. Last year by $350 billion. All the Republicans are doing is driving up that cost. They passed a $2 trillion tax cut under the last guy that went to the very wealthy, and they didn't pay a penny of it. So my point is, there's a lot we can do, and nobody making under $400,000, and I didn't know anybody growing up made anywhere near that, paid a penny more in taxes. But there's so much we can do, and we're just getting started.
That's why we have to go vote. Hanging out with President Biden right now. Family, tomorrow, big day. We got to go vote. So when we come back, I want to have a human moment with you, Mr. President. You lost your son back in 2015 to cancer. How did you keep going after that? Why didn't you give up during that time? What can we learn from your tragedy? More with President Biden when we come back. It's the Willie Moore Jr. Show. Flat out. I'm blessed right here on the Willie Moore Jr. Show, and I'm still having a great conversation with President Joe Biden right here on the Willie Moore Jr. Show. Well, Mr. President, I really want to have a human moment with you right now. Being a man of faith in 2015, when you had to endure the untimely death of your son, I seen a man button up his boots, strapped them up, and still got back in the race. In this moment with so much going on in this world, what do you believe my nation of people that I get an opportunity to talk to about faith, what area could we pray for you for during this time?
Well, look, pray for our democracy. Pray for our children. Pray for our adopted children who are so often left behind. Pray for our American troops. Look, I just came from Mass. Happen to be a practicing Catholic. And I believe in prayer. I carry with me a rosary my son had in his hand when he died. After he got home, he won the Bronze Star, the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was a major in the U.S. Army, a year in Iraq. He came home with brain cancer. I tell you, I guess the best way to say it is, when my son came home, he went as fit as you could be. He was an attorney general. He gave up his seat to go with his National Guard unit to Iraq, spent a year there. He came home with stage 4 glioblastoma, for which they had not found a cure.
Wow.
So it was only a matter of months. And I was with him, and he asked me whether I would sit at the table with him and talk a little longer after my 2 grandkids got up to leave and his wife.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and said, "Dad, promise me, Dad." And we have an expression in our family. My mom used to say, "Look at me, Dad. Look at me, Dad. Promise me. Promise me you won't stop. I'm going to be okay, Dad, no matter what happens, but promise me you won't stop." He wanted to make sure that I stayed engaged, and I didn't want to stay engaged, but I kept the promise I made to him.
Wow.
And the promise is to be involved. We can change things. We can change things. It's not always easy, but we can do it. And I'm more optimistic about the chances for America than I've ever been because of folks like you, because of people who are out there who are just breaking their neck and trying to change. This younger generation is the most qualified, talented, least prejudiced generation in America. There's so much we can do.
Yeah.
I really believe it. And you got to remember who the hell we are. We're the United States of America, for God's sake. There's nothing beyond our capacity if we do it together. We just have to have a little soul. I got in trouble when I announced for the presidency. I said I've run it for 3 reasons. 1, to restore the soul of America. And I meant it. Decency, honor, commitment, treating people with dignity, and to rebuild the middle class and the working class by working from the bottom up, not the top down.
Yeah.
And unite the country. The hardest part is uniting it now. But we can do this. We can do this. I promise you. I promise you.
Indeed. The one and only Joe Biden, ladies and gentlemen, y'all make some noise for him. Indeed. President Biden, I'm actually sitting in a room with my family. I sit next to my 99-year-old auntie, Azita Hill, the wife of the late, great Jesse Hill. And she sends her love.
Miss Hill, God love you. Thank you for listening.
Indeed. Well, listen, we thank you so much. The White House staff, you guys were amazing.
Come and see me in the White House.
Man, you know what? I just told Erica that I'm coming, and I would love to come hang out with you for a while, man. Definitely praying for you.
All right, pal. Keep me in your prayers. I'll keep you in mind.
Indeed. Sure thing. Have a great one.